cosas que de ti no recibí. Te diste por hecho que mis besos fueron hechos para ti. Tomaste provecho de todo lo que te di. No me importa tu dinero, un caballero quiero yo. Por eso es que estás soltero. Tu vanidad me apagó. Las cosas que yo hice por amor quitaron el dulce a mi sabor. Y es que desde que te fuiste todo va mejor. Todo lo que apagaste ya tiene su color. Tú diste por hecho que mis besos.
Alright, so seems like we are live now. So guys, today I'm gonna show you a very interesting topic about GitHub Actions. So in my previous videos I talked about GitLab, I talked about Kubernetes, I talked about Docker, right? So in today's video I will be talking about GitHub Actions, particularly how to build and push a Docker image to GitHub Container Registry step by step. Trust me, this video is going to be interesting. Step by step, you can see on my screen what is happening right here in this session. And if you find this content useful, share this content with your friends and colleagues. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe. And that's how you can support me. Thank you, everyone. Without a further delay, let's get started. So I'm going to be introducing you first of all with this repository. This is the repository I created for my YouTube videos. So in this video, I will be adding up GitHub Actions, right? So I have a Django kind of like a hello world file. So if I go to YouTube and views, here when I go to the home page, this is going to be responding with this. Okay, with this content. And let me see if I have something actually running in there. If not, I could actually show it to you in a sec. So this is the application and I have the Dockerfile right here, and this is something not completed because I actually did not write the whole thing in my past videos, but today I will be fixing this and going to build this web app application using GitHub Actions. So stay tuned. I'm gonna be pushing these changes into my repository in a bit. Okay, so first of all, for the people who do not understand at all about GitHub Actions, so what is actually GitHub Actions? You can actually Google it yourself, like GitHub, and then you can just say Actions. GitHub Actions is basically a CI/CD platform that let you automate your build, test, and deployment pipelines. Meaning that, let's say we have the Django application, and when we make changes to our code base, we want to automatically build the Docker image and deploy it to somewhere, let's say Kubernetes cluster. So all this is stuff you could do using GitHub Actions. For example, if you have used Jenkins or GitLab or Azure DevOps, right? This is exactly the similar tool. This tool was introduced back in 2018, sometime in the summertime. If I remember, one of my colleagues presented GitHub Actions. Why I don't like the GitHub Actions that much compared to GitLab. GitLab is much more powerful. But anyway, that's my personal opinion. But we're gonna learn about GitHub Actions. So GitHub Actions, we already know, is basically a CI/CD platform. The second thing we want to learn is basically about the app. So the Django app is a Hello World app. I'm gonna show it to you on the terminal and also going to introduce with the Dockerfile. Hey guys, if you're watching this video right now, let me know if you have any trouble with the sound. I have a very bad microphone. It's very difficult to talk to be honest. And then I'm gonna be talking about workflow. Let me explain to you what is workflow. Workflow is basically, in generic term, you can say pipeline. So pipeline contains job, right? And job contains steps. So we are gonna go through them in the GitHub Actions. So when someone says workflow, just behind your head, you always think that this is a pipeline, meaning that it has some jobs, and some jobs does some certain things, right? So in here, with the workflow, we're gonna build and push our changes and store it in GitHub Container Registry. And GitHub Container Registry is a tool like Docker.io, K.io, or Google Container Registry. So here you could basically store your artifacts. They support Docker, npm packages, and whatnot, right? Quite a lot of these steps they actually support at this point. And then I'm gonna show you step by step about the workflow. So basically the pipeline console output. So basically the text, what is happening in each step. So stick with me, sit tight and enjoy this session, and let's jump into the business. I'm not gonna talk more at this point. So let me introduce first about the application. So the application actually uses pfile. This is where I have the requirements. Let me close this off at this point. And here you can see I have got Django. This is the version. This package I installed by actually I don't use it. I would be using it for REST APIs in the future videos, but today I'm not going to be talking about this. So basically what I need is basically Django. You could delete this. And in the pip log is this, what we have. So you have a couple of packages right there, right? So I'm gonna show you how this works. So if you have never worked with pipenv, it's a dependency management tool basically. So what you could do, you could install the dependency packages, right? So in a pipenv, you could just say pipenv install, right? Because I have the log file already, so I could just say pipenv sync instead, because nothing to basically install, because everything else it has already installed it. But anyway, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna say python manage.py run server. If you're not familiar with Django, stick with this information because you don't need more than that. So if I do this, what it's gonna do is basically fire up my application right here, and let me take you to the browser, and this is what you're gonna see. So what is happening at this point is that when I go to the home page, is basically that's what I talked already. So this is what I get in response, right? So this is what the application does, nothing else. So I'm gonna close this at this point. The next thing I want to do, because I installed the dap packages, I don't have dap packages actually, because I said production everything here. So I have installed and everything seems to be fine. So the next what we want to do, we want to dockerize this. So when we want to dockerize this, so if I just run this command, and if I'm in the right directory, I am saying that this is already in the current directory, the path of the Dockerfile, right? So it's gonna build the image. So this is not so convenient if you're working right more often with the code base. This is gonna be pretty difficult because every time you have to build it. So what I'm gonna do in here is basically, this is how my steps looks like. Let me actually explain to you from the beginning. So first of all, we are using the Python 3.9 slim image. I'm going to skip this because I actually commented already here. And then we create a directory, and this directory in /opt, right? And this is what we call working directory, meaning that whenever you exec to the Docker container, it's going to straight land you on this directory, okay? And this is where our code base will reside. And after that, what we're gonna do, we're gonna say, right now everything running in root. This is not a good idea because this is just a dummy session. Therefore, I'm not talking about any user or anything else. Maybe in the future we'll be talking about it. But today's video's point to build and push, right, using GitHub Actions. So let's stick to that. Copy pfile right here. So I want to copy this, because this is where our dependency file is, right? And then the log file, where? In the project directory, so basically right there. And then we want to do a couple of things. By default, pip is already installed. Since I'm using pfile, it means that I need pipenv, right? So I'm actually installing this, and then I'm syncing it. What this sync does, you can actually see it yourself as well. If I just enter, then you're gonna see sync. Sync means then install all packages is specified in the pfile.log. So whatever is specified right there is going to be installing as a dependency, okay? and then we're gonna clean and remove all the garbages, right? You could also do basically this pip and then there's this clear command as well, but we are not doing it at this point, but let's skip this. After that, what we're gonna do, we're gonna copy everything that we have in our project directory, right, in this one on the left hand side, and gonna basically dump it to this particular directory. And then now we have the code base and everything, so we expose this particular port, and then we run this Python, the command I actually run, Python, right? In here we are saying that, okay, any IP address, and this is the port we expose. So this is what Dockerfile does, nothing else. So you understand now how Dockerfile is actually written or instructed, what information actually it contains, and then the Django app, basically the dummy application. So you are now familiar with the application, right? Alright, cool. So the next step you want to do is basically this. So let's say I already introduced you with this one, and we want to write this one. So get a workflow for building and pushing Docker image, and in between we need a path token. So I need to get to the browser, and if I come to this browser, there is one thing you can see, which is called actions. So this is something you can enable and disable from your project. This is my project, and if I come right here in actions and I go to general, I could enable or disable. Let's say if I say disable, and let's see what happens. You see, boom, it's actually gone. It's not there anymore. So if you want to have actions in your project, you need to enable it. I just wanted to show it to you. Second thing I actually did from here is basically 90 days by default. I actually put 1 day because this is for dummy purpose. So I don't want to really retain any artifacts after 1 day. I think for now this is fine. You don't have to know anything else. The next thing I want to show is basically this. So if you go here, you're gonna see package, and in packages you see Docker, Apache Maven, and other artifacts that I talked about. You could basically store to GitHub container registry, and this is where your packages are going to be stored. So if I click right here, learn more, what we're gonna see, this piece of vital information. Before it was called this, now it is actually called this. So in short, this is like GitHub container registry.io. So this is the registry endpoint we will be using for GitHub Actions. Okay, you don't need to know anything else at this point. In here, the next thing you want to do, you want to go to this particular location and go to settings. The one you want to do is basically developer settings. So if you go here and go to personal access token, this is the token you would be needed actually. So this is beta, I'm not going to talk about it at this point. So you are going to be clicking on this one. As you can see, I created one, a personal access token. You need to create one because this is what you need to authorize against packages. So we are talking about GitHub container registry. Okay, so you can, if you just click in here and then click this, you would be able to create this. So if you want to note something, let's say I'm not going to create, I just want to show it to you. Expiry date, you can choose like 7 days or custom or no expiry. You have that option. Then the one is interesting to us is the write permissions for packages, because you are pushing the Docker image, meaning that you need the right permission. This is what you need, right? This is what exactly you need. If you give the permission to this one, you should be fine, because I don't see any other option here. Right, you should be fine with this one. So then you can just generate it. I'm not going to generate, because if you generate, it's going to create a token. It's going to give it a token to you, and once you refresh the page, the token is gone basically. You can't copy it anymore, just to let you know. This is the same concept I talked about in my GitLab videos. So if you are actually interested, then you could jump into this particular video. I would be highly recommending everyone. This is where I actually go through building and pushing Docker images, and the concept remains the same. The way we are doing in GitHub Actions is a bit different. Okay, so if you're interested, go ahead with this video. You would be learning quite a lot of new things if you're new to this Docker or container world, for example. Okay, so the next step we want to do, we are done with this one, right? I want to jump into the repository. So let me go to tech with Pfizer right here. So we can actually start working with this one. One thing I would be actually talking about is basically, if you click in here, you would actually see some of the pipelines that I have run some time ago, but I'm gonna go from the scratch to show you pretty much everything that I have for today. Okay, so you can create new workflow from here if you want to, and a couple of examples you can see. If we click on this one, Docker image, right, they have already written some of the stuffs right here. I'm gonna do it a bit differently, not this way. This is one way you could do, but my point of this video for the people who do not know at all about GitHub Actions, so I'm gonna explain to you every line when I write in VS Code. And if you have any questions, you can also, the live is still going on. Oh, there is no chat anyway. Okay, it's good. Okay. So we're gonna jump in right here, and I was right here. Okay, so let me jump into the VS Code, and I will be actually writing this. Okay, I talked about this, so I can mark this one, and I will make it a little bigger for you guys. And I'm gonna push everything after this session, so don't worry at all about it. So first of all, if you want to bring up GitHub Actions, you need to basically do what? You can double click to create a folder, but I'm gonna show it to you using this process so that everyone understands. So I'm gonna say GitHub, and then what I'm gonna call it, workflows. So you can see at the root of your project, this is what you're gonna create. Once I create this one, I want to create a file inside it. I don't know what to call it. Call it build and push maybe. And then remember this, do not write YAML, instead write YML, right? So this is what you're gonna write. Let me clean this up and close saved. I should be fine. P file, let me close some of the things from here. Okay, so let's jump in here right here. So I'm gonna start from the scratch. So I'm gonna call it name. So this is optional, this is not mandatory. So name is basically going to be the name of your workflow. I'm gonna call build, and hey, remember I prefer kebab case, so this is basically kebab case. So the, what do you call it, dash or hyphen? I don't know in English what to call it. Build and push Docker, shall I call it image? Okay, this is what you're gonna call. This is going to be the name of your workflow. Okay, the next thing you want to do is on, and going to be on what? On push event, and push event going to be on branches, and the branch I want to actually call is basically main branch. So if you go for pull request, you can just say pull request or any particular branch. That is also an option, but I'm gonna go for this video with the main branch. Okay, so what I'm saying is that, hey, do something when something happens on my main branch, meaning that someone pushes some code into the main branch, okay, in GitHub. Next thing I could do env, meaning that the variable, basically env variable. So you could say env, and I'm gonna use it actually in a second. Most likely I just wanted to show you. So then, VS Code is playing with me. So then I'm gonna say jobs. In the jobs, as I said, collections of steps, right? So first of all, I'm gonna call it the build push docker. You just name something. Okay, I just call it this randomly, and runs on. So when we run this particular workflow, it has to run on some virtual machine, right? Because if you have noticed in GitLab, I was running the job on my Mac, right? So in this case, we are going to be running on Ubuntu. Actually, this is running on Ubuntu 22.04 LTS version, if I'm not mistaken. And this is Git hosted infrastructure, meaning that GitHub is basically giving you the infrastructure to run this particular workload. Okay, so you don't have to pay any money because I'm using pre-tier, and I have got, I think, if I'm not mistaken, 2000 minutes, actually CI build minutes per month. So I should be fine with this one. So this is an Ubuntu machine. I think it has 2 CPU with 7 gigs of memory, if I still remember it correctly. You can check this information from the documentation as well. The next thing what I want to do, I want to talk about permissions. So permissions is going to be, what permission do we need? We need for content, we need read permission. And for the packages, we need what? Write permission, because we want to push the image to GitHub Container Registry. The next thing we want to do is steps. As I said, what we have done so far is basically we are saying that which machine this job should be running on, and what permission should it actually have. So we are talking about this particular user who would be initiating this particular workflows. So in this case, this is going to be my user, my GitHub user, right? Next step we want to do, this name is basically I have the GitHub Action plugin installed in VS Code, so you can just go here, and this is the one. So VS Code, you can just install it. You can see a lot of people are actually using it. So then you get the pop-up automatically. The next thing you want to do is you want to check out the repo. And to check out the repo, meaning that I have got my repository, I want to check that out. So this is similar to like Jenkins, right? You have to say check out the repository and things like that. And then in GitHub, this is particularly very peculiar and strange, and this is how it is actually designed. And to be honest, this is something I don't like particularly. This is my personal opinion. Now, when I used this, and 2018, I remember when my colleague presented this in the office, I was like, hey, what is this? Why should I be actually using it? And this was a question, and what this action means, where can I find information about the actions, right? And this is a question especially people ask when they have never actually used this tool, right? They are basically the beginner. They have no knowledge. They just heard the name, but they don't know really much about this stuff. So I'm going to show it to you because I had hard time in the beginning to learn, like 5 years back. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take you to github.com, and then the one you are interested in called actions right here. So if I go and do a checkout, it's gonna give me this project. Remember, this is the one, and this is actually under GitHub Actions. So if I click right here and go to the tags, and this is where I'm gonna see what tags are actually released, and the tag actually I'm using is v4, and this is why I don't really like it, because every time I want to use it, I have to come back to each of those projects just to check which version is actually available. So this is where this is coming from. Okay, so check is basically the version 4. And now you might be asking like, hey, can I actually use the commit instead? Is this actually possible? Yes, you can just copy this and you can paste it here. Instead of v4, you can just say this. Okay, so this is also a possibility, and you can also actually use it. The next thing you have to do, okay, let's do a, so next thing, oops, I need to adjust my table just a sec, because my table is too high and it's a bit difficult to type something. So login, you want to do the login to GACR, registry.io. So that's the GitHub container registry. That's where you want to log in because you want to push the image, right? You need to authenticate because this machine doesn't know who you are, right? This machine, sorry, this one doesn't know who you are because you are basically coming from this particular machine. So you need to authenticate yourself against this endpoint, right? Against this address. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna say users. This is the similar thing, and this users basically does some certain actions basically. So we're gonna say docker, and this time we're gonna say login action, and this is going to be version 3. I might have it actually open somewhere here. Yeah, so I have got docker here, and if I say login, and this is where it actually is popping up. So remember, whenever you see something like this, always go to github.com and put slash. Whatever you see right here, you're gonna paste and append to this base address, base. So if I remove this, then I'm gonna paste like this, just like that. So this is how you're gonna see it. And if you go to the tags, you are going to be able to see this is the tag actually I'm using. This is a bit inconvenient, but this is how. Okay, so these 3 things I need because that's very basic, right? You need this. Without that you can't really log in. So here actually you could use a variable instead of this. That's why I was thinking, okay, so you could just say env, and then in the env you could actually say what shall I call it? GitHub, maybe I call it registry. Okay, let's put underscore instead. And this is the, you don't need even a quotation like this. This is fine. So now you could just use this like this. So if you say registry, then you can use the variable like this. So you have to put 2 curly braces, and then you have to call it env. You can see the pop-up is coming up already. And then I'm gonna paste this. So this is how you use the variable. Next thing you want to do is basically this. This is already I talked about path token and things like that. So you want to say env dot. No, this is going to be a different one. This is going to be called github.actor. So actor is basically going to be the user who initiated this particular workflow, basically the pipeline job, right? The next thing you need is basically this. So if I'm saying that secrets, because I talked about secret, right? So this is going to be the GitHub token, basically this one. This is what you need. This is because of the path token, okay? Then the next thing you want to do is basically, this is how they actually work. Extract the metadata. I'm gonna tell you the story behind it, and this metadata is basically the tags and then the labels that you use for your Docker image, basically. I'm going to explain to you in a second. And then I'm gonna use this ID called meta. The next I'm gonna use the users. Users is basically what? So Docker, and then again this time I'm not going to show you because I remember the version is actually B5, so you know how to find it. The next thing what I'm gonna do is basically in GitLab, if you remember, we talked about base images and things like that. This is exactly the same concept. So it's gonna be images, and the images is going to be what? I'm going to be using, let me see what I'm gonna use. So GitHub, and then dot. Okay, so I need basically the GitHub repository, and then the another thing I need the Docker image, right? So okay, so we should be okay. I'm gonna use this actually instead. Let's use the env instead. So I'm gonna call Docker image, and then this image is going to be this. Let's use the env instead. GitHub.repository. Okay, so we are using this. I just wanted to show you basically. So in here we could actually use env dot instead, env dot GitHub registry, because we have the registry right here. We actually could ignore this part as well, but I just wanted to show you if you wanted to use this env. Basically it doesn't really make sense, to be honest. But and then the next one you want to do is basically the env.docker image. Basically this is the one. So in GitLab we actually define that, hey, okay, the base image is gitlab.com blah blah, right? This is exactly the same process, but this is something we are setting as base image, and after that we're gonna say, if you remember, we say like web blah blah latest, or in GitHub you can just say the project name and then the main branch or things like that, or you can use predefined variables as well. That's something also possible, right? Okay, the next one we want to do is the, okay, let me go to the name, and we want to call it basically, let's say build and push. Wow, man, I'm so tired. Docker image. Okay, build and push Docker image. And in here, let's say, in here the users are going to be this. This is the same project basically coming from Docker, and we call it build push. I think this is called action, if I remember by heart, is still B5. Let me actually verify this. I can't remember. Let's see if they have it different. So if I just type in push, okay, this is actually build and push action. Okay, that's correct. And version 5. I think it was version 5 because I ran this evening, so I should still remember this. Yeah, version 5. So that's fine. The next step we want to do is basically this. This is where we're gonna say where is the Dockerfile, because it wants to build the Docker image, and therefore we need the Dockerfile, right? We have to say where this Dockerfile actually existed. The context is basically this. Since we are here, it means we are coming here. So we can say dot, and then we can say Django. And then we can say this is going to be web app, right? Web app. And if I come to web app and I know this file is right here, so this is the correct path for it, right? Alright. The next thing we want to do, we want to say push is true. We are saying that, hey, build the image. If the image is built successfully, then we want to push it, right? If it fails, we don't push. So this is the thing we are basically doing right now. Then the next thing we want to do is basically the tags. So tags is very special case I'm going to be explaining to you. So steps dot meta dot output, not outcome, outputs dot tags. I'm going to explain to you in a second. Let me write this. So this is for tags, and then for labels we could actually hardcode the whole thing even, but I'm gonna show you the native GitHub Actions way, basically how to do it, because this is something you could do multiple ways. This is not the only one way to do it. So what it does is basically this will be applied in here. Is you can say like the discovery phase in this section, you can say in that way. This is whatever is discovered right here is going to be applied to the image right here in this step. So the ID meta is going to allow the output of this step to be referenced in a subsequent step. So the images basically here, if you remember, we just set up the base URL, and after that the label is going to be actually, in this case, since this is meta, we are talking about the repository is going to be actually tagged with Pfizer, but we're gonna see in a sec. So what is going to be happening is that the meta allows the output of this step to be referenced in a subsequent step. Okay, just remember this. This step is basically going to use the tags and labels parameters to tag and label the image with the output from the meta step. So basically we were doing the discovery right here in the meta step. Whatever output it is going to be labeled this particular base image. So the base image was something we defined right here is going to be labeled with that. So if you have not still understood, no problem, because once we push this, we would be able to see it in action. Okay, so I don't think anything else we have at this point, because we are checking out the repository. Let me grab this. What we are doing basically, we are checking out the repository. We have the machine right here. We are checking out the repository. We are logging in. This logging in step, actually, you could actually move from here to here also is possible. It's also possible. You could actually move it that way as well if you wanted to. But what we have to do now, we need to move to our repository. Let's see where is our repository. Right here. Let's leave. And if I'm here, if I push this, because I'm using main, is because I don't want to actually create a merge request and go back, because I'm in live session, so I wanted to save some time. Okay, and let's see where we are. We are 39 minutes already. Oh, that's a lot. Okay. So what we're gonna do, git status, I'm gonna run this particular command and gonna see what happens with this. So git and update, git status, let me see what I have. Okay, so git and dash dash, I don't want to add actually everything, so dash 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 github. So this is what I want to add. Everything else I want to ignore in this commit at this point. So git status, everything looks good. Git commit -m, introducing the GitHub actions, and I want to write one more message: build and push Docker image using GitHub actions. I think this should be fine. So if I commit it, I'm gonna commit directly to my main branch. This is disclaimer, this is not how you should be working, because I'm just making YouTube video sessions, so I should be fine with this. And then we're gonna move back to our repository. So if I refresh, you can see a color right there, and I have got my changes right here. You can see I got my changes. And what else did I have? Okay, the Django folder actually had web app, and right there I have got p file, because this is not something we had before, and pplog, and we have got the Dockerfile as well. Okay, everything looks good, and let's jump back to this yellow sign. So right here something is happening once you click and go to the details. And if you go here, you can see it has a green light or green color, so it seems like everything was good. So this is how the workflow is. This is how it looks like. And if you remember, build push Docker image, and if I go here and go all the way up, this is the name of our workflow. If you do not say this, it's going to be the name of your file. So it's going to be, this is the name GitHub is going to be picked up. Okay, just to let you know. Okay, and you can also label it with multiple machines. I did not talk about it since this is the very beginning of GitHub Actions videos, so I think we will make a lot of videos in the future as well. Okay, so bear with me. This is a bit surprising that it didn't throw any error anywhere, because I didn't validate this file myself, because if I made any typo or something. What time is it now? Actually, that's the US time. So right now 2:48 in Finland. I'm making this video 2:48 at night time, man. It's like AM. Please guys, do not forget to give a thumbs up to this video, and this is what inspires me a lot. And let me know how do you feel about this session. If you like this live session, I can make dozens of videos like this every day, pretty much, to be honest. If not every day, but there are 5 videos for sure in a week I can make. But anyway, let's jump into the content. So what it did, it actually did a setup, and it has, you can see the time stamp right here. So it basically gives you how much time it has taken to execute each of those things. So if you expand, you can see what is actually in here. Permissions, it has this information, blah blah blah. It's not so interesting to me, but if it is new thing for you, you could basically go through the whole content basically in the console output, right? And here you can see quite a lot of the steps, right? And I'm not gonna go through all of it. And here it was the authentication, and authentication was successful. Here it just did the checkout of our repository. Here it did set up the machine basically and permission thingy. The next step was the label part. Maybe this is something I talked about. It's something you might be interested. So you can see the image title is this. So our image title is going to be this basically. And you can see the creation date and which version of this, and quite a lot of information. And here you get a little bit more verbose. And build and push stage actually has what? It has, let me see, it has Docker info. Let's see if we go all the way. It has all the steps that we mentioned. Then we update the package. It basically does the installation of pip-env, right? And then in this step we basically did not have anything else in the Dockerfile, right? So this is what we basically had. Right here we are. And then you have the image ID. So this is basically the Docker image ID. It got generated. Actually, this is something you have also seen when I run this command. The command was right here. If I go all the way up, I still believe it was there, right here. So when we were building this, you notice there was some Docker image part, if I remember, or is it like taken from the cache? Okay, I don't remember. Let's not spend time on this one, but anyway, so you get the concept. In the metadata, you can see quite a lot more information. And after that, this is the post build push Docker image. We did not actually define it, if you remember. We did not really define this stuff, right? This is what GitHub Actions did automatically for us, because we only did build push extract. After that, it does some cleanup by itself. Post check out the repo, complete job, post login, post build. It just basically, if you look at here, removing login credential. So it was basically on the Ubuntu machine, right? When you did the login, it actually stored and it removed. So it basically cleans up the stuff. If you read them carefully, this is what exactly it does. So now this looks really good. Let's go to this page. So this is totally taken 41. Oh, this is interactive. I did not notice it. Total duration was 50 seconds. The status was success, and this actually links to which particular commit, right? And you can rerun all jobs, or you can create a status badge, like you can see if the job is running or not and things like that. Okay, so now if we go back to insights, okay, I'm not gonna go. Okay, let's go to the code first. Here you see something interesting. The packages tag with Pfizer. This is the name of our actual image, and we pushed our code, and right, and it, you can see the pipeline is actually succeeded, and it pushed the Docker image. And let's see what happens now. If I click here, it says that 6 minutes ago it was published. There was total 1 download, and who was the contributor? Contributor name. You can open an issue. You can go to the package setting. I'm going to show you in a second. And if I want to pull my Docker image, I just have to, you can just click right here, right? And I can just say Docker pull. Oh, it was already there. It was already there. So let me jump in here, and I can just say, hey, pull this particular image. I never pushed it. I didn't pull it yet, so therefore you can see it takes a little bit time. Anyway, you get the idea. So this is how you pull the image. The next thing you want to see is basically, you can see the digest actually right here. It has the information about the digest. So this is basically what we have seen in the image ID, if you remember. Then if I go to package settings, I could actually delete this package, right? This is what I could do as well. I'm not going to delete it at this point if someone is watching my videos and want to test it out. So I would just leave it for the time being. So this is how it looks like, and as I talked about, I don't like it particularly because of this. Just because of this tag and things like that, I don't like it, because every time I need to go to a particular project and need to look for this particular thing, if I actually mistype anything, it's not gonna work, which is why actually I don't like it. So now, what are the other options? Can I actually do it, instead of doing it this way, can I actually do it this way? For example, let's say I want to say, instead of uses, I don't want to say uses. I just wanted to show you. So can I actually run this particular command like docker, like we did in for GitLab, docker login, and then username, right? You can say username. This is what I wanted to show you for today, and I don't think I have anything else. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I'm gonna make more videos on GitHub Actions in the coming days. And hey guys, since I'm making this video early in the morning, basically 3 a.m. in Finland, please do not forget to leave it a like, because that's what encourages me to make more videos like this.